Hi, I'm C.G. Rousing, the author of Thoughts to Die For. And now I'm going to read you Chapter 2, titled The Announcement. 30 minutes and 3 seconds had passed since I burned the invitation. Would sleep ever come? As I lay in bed waiting, adrenaline whizzing through my veins, my mind wandered to the dream in which I'd received the invitation. Here's how I remember it happening. There was an elfish creature about as tall as a doorknob, standing on a street corner in front of the "Don't Believe Everything You Read" newsstand. It held an almost true and good guess newspaper open at arm's length. I remember the titles because I thought they were funny in a very true sort of way. The creature's glow was so vibrant that I had to shade my eyes. Seeing me do this caused it to apologize at once, and its glow diminished, as if on a dimmer switch. "Well, hello there, I'm Snur," it said, practically beaming. I thought that hearing words without seeing its lips move was strange, but stranger still was how, when it extended its hand for a shake, my hand passed through it, the way shadows cross on a sidewalk. "Sorry, my mistake. Can't touch in the in-between dream dimension. You know, the half dimension." I didn't know what a dimension was, let alone a half dimension. I stared at Snur's motionless lips as words echoed through my head. "Dimensions are like radio stations. You have to be on the same frequency to hear the broadcast." Snur could hear my thoughts, and it made me uncomfortable. "Everyone's telepathic in the in-between dream dimension. That's why you're here. You heard our announcement. We heard your interest." "What announcement?" I asked, noticing how the gravel sparkled like silver beneath my feet. Snur tossed the newspaper into the air and spun in a circle fast enough to catch it. "The announcement. The one where we searched the dimension's high schools for thought sifters." I couldn't recall having ever heard such an announcement. "What's a thought sifter?" I asked, as I watched Snur search the depths of its kangaroo-like pouch. "You're a thought sifter." "I am?" "Yep. The Earth experience makes you forget who you really are. Dimension 11 will help you remember." For the first time ever, I wondered who I really was. "Sifters know the power of their thoughts and choose them wisely," said Snur. "They do?" "Yep. They understand that their thoughts and emotions create their experiences. Problem is, they're a bit rusty around the edges. It's understandable. Sifting isn't taught in all dimensions, yours being one of them." Staring at this strange little creature, I tried best I could to absorb what it had said. As I watched it search its pouch a second time, I wondered if it was male or female. "Male," said Snur, as several photos fell from his pouch. "I have something for you. I know it's here. I put it in there this morning," he said, frustrated. "What's that in your hand?" I asked, pointing to an envelope he'd switched between his hands while searching his pouch. There it is," he laughed, as he bent to pick up photos. I tried to help, but my hand passed right through them. As I looked more closely, I couldn't help noticing that one of the photos was of Althea and I playing sock toss in my backyard. It was at that moment that I realized Snur wasn't only in my dreams, but also in my yard. Before I had a chance to ask him about the photo, I felt myself being pulled out of the dream, as though I were a bit of thick milkshake being sucked through a very long straw. When I awoke, I found the invitation crumbled in my hand. But now, it's gone forever. All my proof up in flames. I tried to take a picture of it before I burned it, but there was just a purple blur where the invitation should have been. An hour passed since I'd burned the invitation, and I was still awake, unchanged, and definitely not in the 11th dimension. Waiting is hard. The mind wanders. I started to worry about, well, every possible thing. The invitation had mentioned something about enjoying the ride. I wondered what that meant. What would Dimension 11 be like, if it really existed? Can I come home if I don't like it there? Am I really a thought sifter, and how powerful can thoughts be? Will I miss my family? Will they miss me? I hadn't yet said goodbye to my family. In all the excitement, I'd actually forgotten about them. What does that say about me? About us? About them? Tossing aside my ocean blue 100% cotton sheets, I made my rounds, starting with my brother. I paused outside Daryl's bedroom. With his eyes affixed to the televised championship wrestling match, Daryl said, "I know you're there. I can hear you breathe, little bro. Where's Mom?" "Working late as usual," I answered. "Oh, she called earlier. She said there's a frozen dinner in the freezer if you're hungry." "Oh, thanks," said Daryl, burping loudly. "Good thing she said it's in the freezer. I'd have never found it." I grabbed the black rubber handles of the steel pull-up bar affixed to the doorway of Daryl's bedroom, and mustered up enough strength to pull off 5 chin-ups, while asking him if he'd ever awakened with something he'd been given in a dream. His rapidly blinking eyes darted poisonously in my direction and away just as fast. A minute passed without response. Punching sounds and cheering from the television filled the space between us. Daryl lay sprawled out on his bed, his back toward me. I was about to leave when he paused the television, looked over his shoulder, and flipped around to face me, cheeseburger in hand. "Are you crazy? Are you on drugs or something? Why would you ask such a ridiculous question, Levi?" He then stuffed half the quarter-pounder in his mouth. A glob of ketchup dripped onto his comforter. It almost matched. "I'm serious. Did you ever wake up with something you'd been given in a dream?" I asked again from where I now sat, on the bed beside him. "I'm serious, too. Have you been eating some of those mushrooms from the neighbor's lawn again?" he asked, ruffling my hair. Daryl always had an odd sense of humor. For the record, not once have I indulged in mushrooms from the neighbor's garden. "Look, I just need to let you know that I'll be moving out by morning," I announced. Daryl laughed himself off the bed with a thud at hearing this. "Moving out? You kill me. I've got 6 years on you. I know what it's like to try to make it out there. It's not easy. Why do you think I'm back here in this go-nowhere hole of a desert town, living with Mom and Dad?" Daryl tossed an empty burger box at a dusty surfboard, leaning against the wall. "You have no money, no job, not to mention no skills. Where could you possibly go if you want to survive for more than 24 hours? Daryl lay snickering on the hardwood floor. He shoved the remaining half of the burger in his mouth and chewed cow-like, awaiting my response. "I'm going to Universe City, in another dimension. I burned the invitation. Otherwise, I'd show it to you." Daryl stopped chewing and swallowed hard. He looked at me the same way Dr. Oblivia looked at me during our sessions together. His lower jaw dangled. The room fell silent. When finally he spoke, he said, "Oh, yes, of course. You must be talking about the new Harvard on Mars for 15-year-old schizophrenic high school dropouts. I hear they have a new admission requirement. You have to burn your acceptance letter, and then they send the magic carpet to pick you up. I'm sure you'll finish magna cum laude." Daryl turned his back to me, grabbed the remote controller for his television, and blasted the volume. While I was disappointed that he didn't believe me, I understood that what I was asking him to believe was, well, unbelievable. As I was about to leave his room, I paused to stare into the dresser mirror, where the reflection of an endless line of Daryl's tunneled through a second mirror on the bedroom wall behind him. My eyes fell upon the image of an eerie tower inked on his back. My body always recoiled with goosebumps whenever I looked at it. Soaking in Daryl's reflections, I realized that this may be the last time my eyes would look upon my only brother. The sound of snoring pierced my sadness. I followed it to the living room. My eyes raked over the scene. There were candy wrappers, a cigarette butt-filled ashtray, an oxygen tank, and a thick leather belt on the table beside the couch where my father lay sleeping. Half a tear slid down my cheek. I wasn't sure if it was a tear of sadness for his illness or relief that I'd never again have to feel the burn of his misplaced anger against my skin. I picked up a faded photograph from the nearby end table. My nearly unrecognizable, love-intoxicated parents sat embracing in the back seat of a limousine on their wedding day. I couldn't recall the last time I had seen such warmth between them. My eyes soaked in the image. "Thanks for everything, you two. I know you did the best you thought you could," I whispered as I kissed the photo of my mother and placed it face down on the table. Walking down the hallway toward my bedroom, I tried hard to hold back the flood of tears. Flopping onto my bed, I grabbed a clump of tissue from a nearby box. I brushed Althea and pulled her close. She whimpered and gazed at me knowingly. Sometimes I felt like she could read my mind. This was one of those times. Thus far, this had been the longest night of my life. I looked at the clock. It was 1 a.m. What if sleep never comes? Pulling open a drawer in my nightstand, I grabbed a notebook, ripped a sheet of paper from it, and wrote a shoddy will, leaving all my belongings to my brother. I then wrote a brief note to my parents, reassuring them that there was no reason to worry about me, for I'd just gone to a better place. Althea hopped up on my bed with one of her toys in her mouth. We started to play tug-a-rope, but it wasn't much fun. It reminded me of the nightmare I'd had the previous night. Snurr wasn't in this one. Instead, enormous beasts, looking as though they were half dragon, half Dilophosaurus, deliberately played tug-of-war with my body. The cruel glare of their fluorescent purple eyes, vacant of even the remotest vegetarian twinkle, sent chills through my body. Their breath smelled of things gone foul. They flapped their gargantuan wings, first the one to my left, then the one to my right. Each flap created a current that violently sucked me back and forth between them. It seemed as if they were doing this deliberately. I don't know how I know this, but these beasts are called Clockens. I apologized to Althea for not wanting to play tug-a-sock. She tossed me her saddest expression, and I twitched with guilt. Waiting for it to happen was stressful. I crawled out of bed and opened my bedroom window for a bit of fresh air. I couldn't believe my eyes, and I didn't want to. The shadow of something unearthly large moved across the moonlit lawn and crawled up into the eucalyptus tree less than 20 yards away. 2 fluorescent purple eyes pierced the darkness. I slammed the window shut, locked it, and drew the curtains at once. My heart raced. I pinched myself to see if I was in a half-dimension, but I couldn't tell. As I stood in front of the window, planning my next move, a putrid scent blew through the room, and wind ruffled curtains. But the window was closed. Althea growled. She and I exchanged petrified looks. I jumped onto my bed and bolted beneath the covers. Althea joined me. "Did you smell that?" I asked through the darkness. My body quivered beside hers. She barked twice. "And the curtain, did you see it move?" She barked again. The room shook violently. I could hear my possessions being tossed fiercely around the room. "What's happening?" I gasped. Stay tuned for Chapter 3.